Hey guys, it's Carl here from Gaming Till Disconnected, and today I'll be giving you a review of the LG 34UM95 UltraWide display. We first saw 21:9 monitors back in 2012. Back then they were generally 2560 by 1080 displays that lacked the vertical space to give an overall real estate that was actually useful to a lot of people. With the 34UM95 however, you get a resolution of 3440 by 1440, which equates to a lot of pixels. As they're packed into a 34-inch display, you get a pretty good pixel density of 109 ppi, making text look sharp and clear. As well as the display and stand, you get a user manual and quick start guide, the power cable, a DisplayPort cable, an HDMI cable, and the driver installation CDs. We also received a slip to let us know that our individual unit had been properly tested and calibrated by LG. The crystal float stand has a very basic metal base that feels quite hefty and has a wide enough footprint to reassure you that the display isn't going to topple over, but is small enough not to take up too much desk space. Rising from it is a piece of clear plastic that practically disappears when looking at it. The understated stand in combination with the very thin 1.3cm bezel means that the physical parts of the monitor completely get out of the way, allowing you to focus completely on what's on the screen. One of the annoying points about the design is the fact that it only has two height settings. In order to change it, you have to use two screws in the back of the display to move it to one of the two levels. There isn't actually a huge amount of difference between these two settings, so I found myself balancing the display on some books in order to get my desired height. You can, however, use an 100mm VESA mount, making it possible to use a stand of your own choice. Something else lacking from the display is the ability to swivel it, as you can with many of the other ultra-wide monitors. However, given the size of the display, this feature could have been a little overkill. The display itself is incredible to look at from just about every angle. By using IPS technology, LG say that the display can be viewed at 178 degrees and still present incredibly accurate colours. It's also a 10-bit rather than an 8-bit display, making it able to display far more colours than your average monitor, and that really shows. I think LG managed to strike a great balance between colour vividness and anti-glare. It has great colour representation considering the coating, and you're not going to want to watch films on this if you have a window behind you, but it does stop a fair amount of reflections, so having a light source behind you isn't out of the question. The contrast ratio is also fairly strong. With dark content, it's easy to see that the murky grey presented on screen is quite far removed from true black, but it's by no means dissatisfactory. For watching films, the LG 34UM95 provides a top-class experience, especially if they were exported in 21:9 CinemaScope ratio. Rather than getting wasted vertical space with letterboxing, you get to see the full HD resolution that takes up the entire screen. When watching content in other ratios such as 16:9, you get black bars on the sides, but you don't lose any of the vertical pixels, so there is no drop in quality. The only downside to this is that 21:9 content with hard-coded letterboxing, rather than actually cropping the footage itself, results in a weird scaled effect that puts the video in the middle of the black screen. This sort of content is very common on YouTube. The only technical issue I had with the display was a small amount of light leakage around the edges of the screen, giving a weird yellow tinge. I assume that this is because I was given a review sample that has been sent to quite a few people before it reached me. I contacted LG and they said that it was not a commonly reported issue and assured me that every new display was quality checked before being sent out. You have a few different options for hooking up content to your screen: Thunderbolt, DisplayPort, and two HDMI ports. The LG 34UM95 also has support for daisy chaining with Thunderbolt, meaning you should be able to connect up to two monitors in addition to the 34UM95, or an additional monitor and a hard drive, but you'd have to check the hardware specifications on your computer. With both Thunderbolt and DisplayPort, the monitor can display content at the full resolution at 60Hz. If you want to use one of the two HDMI ports, however, it will only be displayed at 50Hz with full resolution. There are stereo speakers below the display which are reasonable, but nothing to get excited about. Bass response is pretty rubbish, but overall it's not too bad if you just want to pop on a film or listen to some music. It's worth bearing in mind that the speakers are secondary to the display, and given the relatively small form factor, it's not surprising that they aren't top class. Handily, there is a 3.5mm audio out socket on the rear of the display, meaning you can quickly reroute the audio to your headphones without having to fiddle out with any settings. It's a bit tricky to find it without looking, but it's a useful feature nonetheless. You are able to use the 34UM95 as a USB hub, though, as with the headphone jack, it's a little bit of a fiddle to put any devices in there. In order to use the feature with HDMI or DisplayPort, you will have to connect the display to your computer with a USB cable, which unfortunately isn't included. If you are using Thunderbolt, however, you should be able to connect it without any extra cables, though I was unable to test this. To control the settings on the 34UM95, LG included a small joystick on the bottom of the display, and it's actually a really good input device. When you push it, a circular interface appears, giving you 5 options that can be chosen by swiping the joystick in a certain direction, or by pushing it inwards. You can also simply move the joystick left and right to begin changing volume, and then down to mute it. The main menu section appears to the right of the screen when selected, and is easy to navigate. You can actually go into quite a bit of depth when modifying the settings on the display, or choose from some preset configurations such as photo, cinema, and game. If you make any mistakes, there is a handy reset button at the bottom that allows you to quickly cancel anything you have done. Unfortunately, the LG 34UM95 is not one of the most energy efficient monitors that LG produce. It's definitely not bad, with an efficiency rating of B, and there are quite a few features that help you save as much power as possible. If the display isn't receiving any signal, it enters power saving mode after just 10 seconds. When in this mode, the monitor will only use 0.3 watts, as the only energy usage is the LED indicator blinking occasionally. To really show off the capabilities of ultra-wide monitors, LG allow you to connect 2 different input devices at the same time to have a picture-by-picture setup. In my experience, it took a little bit of work to sort out the resolution of the monitors, but when I did, the results definitely showed some potential, although HDMI sometimes tried to output at the standard 21:9 ratio, resulting in a really squashed picture. It's important to note that if you use this configuration, the secondary monitor, the one on the right, must always be connected via HDMI. It would be possible to connect 2 devices both with HDMI, but if you use DisplayPort or Thunderbolt, it will always need to be on the left hand side. It is also not possible to display a Thunderbolt input on the right and a DisplayPort on the left, or vice versa. The final main feature of the LG 34UM95 is reader mode. By pressing the joystick, then moving it upwards, you can select 2 different reader modes that reduce the blues in the colour of the display, making it less harsh on your eyes when reading and writing. It is also ideal if you are reading in a darkened room, as it will put less strain on your eyes. I actually used it a lot when writing this review, and find myself having to take fewer breaks from the monitor as my eyes didn't begin to hurt nearly as quickly. LG included split-screen software that can be installed via the disc or downloaded online. According to LG, this allows you to treat the monitor as though it was split into 2, 3 or 4 parts, with varying ratios. I have to say, it didn't work quite as I thought it would. I was thinking that it would cause your computer to see the display as though it were 4 separately attached monitors. Instead, it makes windows snap into certain parts of the screen and adjust their ratios. It is undeniably a useful feature, but those of you who are hoping to use it for, say, multiple full-screen apps on a Mac are out of luck. The LG 34UM95 is quite possibly the best monitor I have ever had the joy of using. Its simplistic design and 21:9 ratio make using it an incredibly immersive experience, and I am going to have a hard time readjusting to my old setup. What it lacks in the built-in stand's customizability, it more than makes up for in the sheer enjoyability of using it. Being a 10-bit display, it has absolutely fantastic colour reproduction, making gaming and watching films absolutely brilliant. I genuinely think that the ultra-wide format has more potential than 4K displays in terms of productivity. Yes, the latter may have more pixels overall, but to me, a 21:9 ratio just makes so much more sense. You can have plenty of windows open side by side. This makes comparing changes, researching while writing, and watching YouTube videos when you're meant to be working an absolute breeze. The LG 34UM95 is also far cheaper than its 4K counterparts, so you could save yourself some money while buying a monitor that may actually be better for you. Because of how much it changed the way I use my computer, I am awarding the LG 34UM95 with the Gaming Till Disconnected Elite Class Award. Well, thanks for watching guys. If you enjoyed this video then make sure you give it a like, and if you think it would help someone else out then make sure you share it. If you want to see more of our videos, then be sure to subscribe to us, and if you want to learn even more about the LG 34UM95, then click on this link to head over to the written review. Finally, if you're thinking of getting the LG 34UM95 or anything else through Amazon, then make sure you use our affiliate link below. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you next time.